Now I give the floor to Mr. Jan Wiegel, Special Envoy for the Promotion of Freedom of Religion or Belief outside the EU.
Thank you, Madam Lochbihler. Distinguished members of the European Parliament, distinguished guests, dear Ahmed Shahid, I'm happy to be here. Not first time, I hope not the last time. It's future, so we have to live in hope. But it's an important moment. And I'm glad that you want to hear my views on your report on European Union action in promoting FORB outside the European Union. Thanks, Andrzej Grzyb, for not only nice words, but his commitment on this own initiative report. I very much appreciate what was done until now, and I expect that the result will be very concrete for future, but not for future of Europe only, because it is about shaping European agenda, European policy, face of Europe, but especially and mostly for those who suffer in the neighborhood, suffer far away from us, but they shouldn't be forgotten, abandoned, voiceless and defenseless. Europe has potential to change, to do something for more humane 21st century. And yes, Andrzej Grzyb mentioned, and it is in the first part in the report on my mandate, that I sort of build up a network, not only within the institutions like Commission and External Action Service and Council, Member States, Parliament, but with many who are in this room now, with many NGOs, civil society organizations, we call it stakeholders, people who care, who are not either afraid or indifferent to defend freedom of religion or belief, because it is at the stake. And I came here today to speak on two basic lines. One is why this agenda is so important, and secondly, how to go on, how to promote what you propose. I want to remind now, in time of 70th anniversary of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that human rights are really universal. And we are all equal in dignity and different in identity. That's principle. That's not something strange or academic. That's principle of our world and humanity. And these rights are indivisible and deeply interconnected. So FORB, as we say, freedom of religion or belief, is not about, it is in the middle. Actually, Article 18 speaks by itself that it is about freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, freedom of religion and belief. So actually it is about deepest human personal freedom, and it means about my and our dignity. And I want to remind the first article, just because if we get first right, first things first, then we may get right Article 18 or 19 or many others. And Article 1 is all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And this expansive right, which is freedom of religion or belief, helps to not only recognize number one, but all others, because this is about the right to, I will quote, to have or not to have or change belief, but also freedom to manifest individually or in community, privately or publicly, through worship, observance, practice and teaching. So this is also about freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of association. So once this right is respected, many others are respected as well, and vice versa. So FORB is essential for good governance, for inclusive citizenship, for equal, dignified citizenship. And I mean it when I speak on this in countries like Iraq or Sudan or Pakistan, because that's about society for all, governance which is good, for believers and non-believers. We need today more than ever to revisit our concept of a secular state, because we need to build it bottom up in a participatory way, the notion of an exclusive and open secularism. Openness is different from emptiness. Openness is a fruit of fair secularism, for plurality, for all. False concept, close the space and impose ideology over the freedom and plurality. I agree with Ahmed Shahid many times, and especially on his notion that we need to keep a respectful distance between state and religion. Respectful distance. And FORB is therefore absolutely essential in making this Article 1, the key to human dignity, stand up against current waves of politics of identities without responsibilities or without equal citizenship, or new nationalism which is popping up in many regions of the world. In current world, unfortunately, FORB agenda is growing in terms of problems. We need to reverse these tendencies. And there are good signs also. There was a report published 2 days ago, presented in the intergroup of this parliament, which is also a good fruit of engagement, first ever institutionalized group in this parliament. And it's called, or subtitled, Signs of Hope. With the realities, within the realities we see some signs of hope. Some concrete decisions were made recently in our European countries and institutions. It's not only about guidelines, special envoy, but since New Year there is a new special rep on the same agenda in Denmark, in the Foreign Ministry, new special envoy of Prime Minister in United Kingdom since July, and also Commissioner for International Religious Freedom in Germany. These are important decisions of current governments on the common concerns. There was a ministerial summit or meeting in end of July in Washington, first ever. So for the United States, this is a priority, and they really want to make it more visible and efficient. So let us work together with all those who are like-minded or ready to move ahead to make this time or century more humane. And FORB is the instrument. FORB is the road towards more humane century. Religions are changing fast and so deeply that today's landscape is totally different from what was there, for example, in 1976 when International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights entered into force with Article 18 as a guiding principle. Peter Berger, a sociologist who believed that secularism prevails in the 90s, now speaks about post-secularism and openness for pluralism and equal citizenship for peaceful earth. He wrote an interesting book about furiously religious world. Several religious leaders have great impact on their communities, enormous influence on people's minds and hearts. They are potential promoters not only of FORB but human rights as well. But they, or some, can also oppose or resist. Many are peace builders. Some are troublemakers. Fundamentalism is growing across all affiliations and in all continents, challenging, as I said, quoted, respectful distance between the state and religions. Today, religious actors and leaders cannot be ignored in external relations, in international cooperation, and especially in promotion of SDGs. Together we can make it. Divided or separated, no. I repeatedly call religious actors, especially leaders, to work for not only freedom of religion but also responsibility of religions, responsibility of communities. I would like to call it religious social responsibility. We use different terms for different areas like corporate social responsibility. There is religious social responsibility, and we should work in promoting this. Engaging with religious actors requires caution and requires a human rights umbrella. FORB and religious engagement are distinctive work streams, but should be conducted in synergy and when well balanced. Now on the mandate, which I am trying to develop for the sake of not only European Union, but especially those who suffer outside. The draft report calls Commission and Council to reinforce the Special Envoy's mandate and capacity. I think this is right orientation. I am pleased and happy that my work has been perceived as relevant, useful or credible. The report also calls to reflect on the possibility to create special representative on FORB and speaks about eventual competencies. This was the approach taken at the resolution against mass atrocities committed by ISIS in Syria and Iraq 2 years ago in February 2016. I think you are just recommitting the Parliament and preparing a legacy for future political message for future Parliament, future Commission, to deal with this on stronger and better constructed base. I'm not here today to defend one or another option. This is not my role. But what I can say is that FORB requires and deserves political attention, action and courage, and requires, of course, massive action with, as you say, budget and human capacity. A dedicated person and team can deliver if the mandate is sound, backed by European Union leadership, and sufficiently resourced to address issues relating to religion, culture and development in EU external action. A mandated and well-resourced special rep or special envoy can play a precious, really very needed role in confidence building and dialogue with key partners and stakeholders at policy, institutional and institutional level, but also on the ground, on the territories. Special rep or special envoy is not a panacea. It cannot replace a healthy institutional culture. Awareness raising and new capacity for EU staff at headquarters and European Union delegation levels, including European Union member states, is needed in matters relating to analysis and responses to contemporary challenges on culture and religion. And institutional anchoring is also needed, ensuring continuity and consistency in our external action. I also appreciate many good ideas relating to suggested competencies, like effectiveness, visibility, and also accountability, high-level dialogues on FORB, and interreligious and intercultural issues. This is also important to closely cooperate with COHOM, with the Council for Formation of Human Rights. The draft report suggests also broadening the scope of the mandate to include interreligious dialogue and interfaith cooperation. I am also for it. This is the second side of the same coin: freedom, but also responsibility, which means two dimensions. One is respect to other convictions, other religions, but also contribution of religious leaders and communities to peace, justice, human dignity for everyone, everywhere. I also appreciate the idea of setting an advisory working group with member states, with institutions, European Parliament, academia, experts, civil society, and faith-based organizations or churches. And last but not least, cooperation with the United Nations is really essential. I'm glad that we have very good, not only personal, but also institutional cooperation with Geneva and New York, with UN rapporteur and offices. On guidelines, shortly, I very much share the view that the need is there for effective implementation of the guidelines. They are good. They are, highly credited. And for this to happen, increasing awareness and literacy on FORB is needed. We cannot have only smartphones and digital literacy. We need also religious literacy in this world. This is about smart people, wise people who know who is who, what is what, are not victims of propaganda or demagogy or whatever isms. Smart people, not only smartphones or technologies. Efforts to step up specific training on FORB for EU staff are underway. DEVCO and DG NEAR prepare special trainings soon. These days I met 8 ambassadors, our European Union heads of delegations. This is just about a process. There is a new support package for EU delegations to implement a rights-based approach. This is the line to take, rights-based approach. And on financial instruments, and I finish here, although money is not the most important, there are good, promising signals and proposals if we compare the past financial framework and years and current decisions and proposals for future. And if this money, especially within the European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights, which should grow by 15%, is used really effectively in combination with other policies and resources, I think we can help people who suffer different forms of intolerance, persecution, or even worse cases. So now I will finish with return to what I said about a report of the Intergroup, Signs of Hope. Your initiative, your assessment, and your commitment to make these policies and recommendations happen is a sign of hope for many, also in Europe, because we need inside hope in time of crisis or frustration and difficulties, but especially for those who are around and look to Europe with their desires or expectations. Thank you very much.